Pat, you want me to go ahead and do the intro, or were you thinking
Please,
you would?
you can do. You should do it because you're more prepared than I am today.
Okay, well,
this week.
Sometimes I am, I guess, occasionally. Hey guys, welcome to the Create/Invent podcast, where we talk about creation, invention, and everything in between. Today we've got a really fascinating guest. He goes by Josh, or ZapWizard, which he makes all kinds of interesting props. And he's got one that we thought was especially interesting. He made a Mandalorian, like a prop handle, like I guess it's a throttle that you can actually use in a like a VR sim, actually use it as a controller as well. So to me it was just amazing how good a prop it was, and it was actually usable, which you don't see that a whole lot. Or maybe you do, ZapWizard, but it's anyway.
It's what I strive for.
We thought it was awesome. So Mr. Zap, should we call you Mr. Zap? Is that
Zap's fine.
So now you live, I believe, in Austin, correct? Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
And listeners may think that Pat somehow arranged this, but actually it was me.
I've never even been to Austin, Jeremy.
Oh, really?
I'm up near Dallas.
Is Austin weird, as they say?
Oh yes. I've had the privilege of participating in plenty of weird events. We had the Alamo Drafthouse movie theater down here. I did two very unique events with them at one point, and have had a lot of fun with all sorts of things down here.
Nice. And you were probably Matt Perks probably had the best camera setup. I got to give him that. But as far as like actual technical preparedness for the show, it's amazing. You got OBS running. You've got your camera here and your main camera. You got one facing up, and CAD screens, everything like that. It's amazing. So yeah, those of you listening won't necessarily see that, but it's pretty cool.
I can see it, Jeremy.
So,
that's all that matters.
Yeah, we can see it.
Well, it's amazing what I can do these days. I got old iPhone that my mom just had to get rid of her 3G phone, right? And so using hers as an auxiliary, and got it's easy to get cameras nowadays, all over the place.
Yeah. Well, yeah. On that note, I know Pat and I have talked about this, but I'm actually just about ready to get a phone with a data plan. So I'm
no way.
About to step. Yeah, I think I'm going to step into the 21st, early 20s.
The late 20th century.
The late 20th.
I was using my phone to LIDAR scan my front yard and do planning of like landscaping and stuff.
Nice.
I'm a little beyond the data plan.
A friend tried to LIDAR scan my head with an iPad, and it came out all wrong. It was the most terrifying thing you've ever seen. One of my ears was...
I scanned my face and made a COVID mask that was custom fit, 3D printed at one point. It looks ridiculous, but it was very comfortable.
Hopefully we won't have to think about that quite as much in the future.
Yep.
But yes, so now you're what is your background exactly? I know you make awesome props and stuff, but what do you do for work or fun, or how'd you get into this?
Yeah, so I went to school for electrical engineering. I often tell people I switched from Legos to electronics at about age 9. Got my first job as an intern at AMD, where they paid for college, and I was doing robotics. Instrumentation and control was my degree. And then I actually completely switched over professionally to doing mechanical engineering. I got a job as electronic technician at a company, but I'd already been doing, for my own personal projects, I had already been designing things in CAD. I wasn't using solid modelers like I do professionally now, and for my own personal projects, I was using TrueSpace, which is an old school polygon modeler. And that led to a job where I was doing mechanical design, product design, and so now my official title is product design engineer, where I'm doing both electrical and mechanical. I design products that are in radio frequency and antennas and things. Some of them will have 1,500, 2,000 components inside the 3D model. Where I design things, I had taken the Gerber files and I actually render them in Photoshop and create a photoreal version of the PCB before we even make the PCB. Every resistor, every zip tie, every wire is all 3D modeled into these complex assemblies that are built in small quantities, so they have to be built right the first time.
Sure. Well, can you tell us where you work, or is that, would you prefer to keep that?
Nah, I prefer to keep that. We're now in a small company that's been out here that used to be family owned, and now we're part of a bigger subgroup of radio frequency products that are range from everything from what the SEC would use to say find a bad transmitter up to military, and it ranges all over the place. And then
that sounds awesome.
yeah, so it's a fun job. It lets me use CAD I get to use Solid Edge, which is not to be confused with SolidWorks. That's basically the official title because everybody confuses it that way. And then that's pushed my own prop making to the point where I've always wanted real props. Back here, I have a whole bunch of Fallout props, but amongst them is real antiques that I've collected because I actually like things that feel and look real. I don't want something that looks like a toy. I really don't like a lot of the toy pieces. I don't collect, like, say, any of the little pop figures or anything like that. So when I go for Star Wars props, I have, and I'll switch over here. So I went and got the Field Marshal gun that is, a real metal kit, that has actual moving parts. Thermal detonator this thing is made of milled brass, but is functional.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
So these are the only kind of props that I collect, and then at the same time I like to make my own, which is kind of what led to the lever that I guess I call it the Razor Crest control lever that Grogu Baby Yoda is so interested in.
Right, yeah. I mean, I saw that a lot of the stuff on your channel, you're making kits, but it looks like this one, basically you bought the, like the handle, like the whatever, the thing on.
Oh, yeah, the only part I bought was the ball on the end that Grogu plays with, and there have been several pop makers making that ball, which is just an aluminum piece with a little blue top, which we now, of course, know is supposed to be reminiscent of R2. And then I found, and I've been...
I haven't seen the show, so...
Oh, gosh.
I haven't seen the show, so...
Well, Grogu's very interested in this little blue topped ball. So when I did is add on I found a guy on the Replica prop forum. I wasn't interested in the ball necessarily until I found a guy on the Replica prop forum who added a shaft and did a little bit 3D printed base. He just made his so it was a fridge magnet thing. Nothing functional. It was just a better way to display the ball is what he wanted.
So do you say a fridge magnet? Yeah. Was it actually magnetic? Like you could actually stick it on?
That's exactly what he did. He made the base magnetic.
That's a big fridge magnet.
Yeah.
How else are you going to have a throttle for your refrigerator, Jeremy?
Yeah. As soon as I saw that, I decided that that was a really cool idea. I went and 3D modeled the base myself. I made it a little more accurate to the movie. That's covered in the Replica prop forum thread. And then I'd already experimented with aging aluminum to do the gun. I've done my Beskar in aged aluminum. And so a new technique that I did that I haven't seen somebody do, which is to take, this is just Nassau brand aluminum plumbing tape, and it is wrapped around a 3D print. So let me...
And the 3D print, so the base of this, basically you've got the ball on the top, you've got a shaft, and then on the bottom you've got a kind of like a semicircular base that you've put this, you said this plumbing material on, and kind of weathered it.
Yeah, I weathered it with a chemical aging and just some Brillo. The base is solid stainless steel, and there's some stainless steel plates inside the 3D print. So this is actually heavy. This weighs over a pound. It feels real. It moves correctly. And I got the plates from Send Cut Send. And then there's a little 3D printed base, and the 3D printed base has magnets, a hard mounting point, rubber feet, and then it holds the electronics, which is a little Trinket M0 that is inside there, which is cool because it's completely self-contained other than the USB cable.
Yeah, that's awesome. So could you put it on your fridge if you...
It is magnetic. It probably would stick to the fridge. Yeah, so this is actually wired up as a joystick throttle.
Oh yeah, I can see it moving.
And I use CircuitPython, which allows this to be a full HID device. So this just shows up as a joystick. There's no additional anything on the PC that is required for this to work.
So I'm familiar with making discrete pushes,
Sure.
on buttons. I've done that kind of thing. But as far as the lever goes, you've got actually an analog signal, as far as, from 1 to 0 to 255
Yep.
maybe. I don't really know. But how does the computer handle that exactly?
So
how
I'm
does
gonna
that
switch over to
configure?
CAD. Inside the assembly is a set of gears. So the middle shaft, or the shaft, turns the middle gear, and then next to it is an identical tooth gear, and that's wired to a potentiometer. I've been using these potentiometers in my Pip Boy project. They're from Bourne's. They're kind of made for guitars and things and instruments. They're a 360 turn potentiometer, so they still 0 to 255 as far as your ADC is concerned, but they can actually turn past 0 and keep going. I'm not using it in this case, but it's 3 millimeters thick, and a little 3D printed shaft hooks up to it. It's a lot smaller than any of the regular board mount potentiometers you might find.
So this is all in the base of the the handle. And this potentiometer, when you say that, basically it's giving a voltage signal back to your trinket, which is like an Arduino board. And that trinket translates that into a signal that the computer can use.
Yep, the Trinket M0 is actually running CircuitPython. So the code is actually really fairly simple, less than 60 lines, and it could even be smaller than that without all the comments. The only thing I'm really doing is one pin for the throttle, one pin to run the LED, just so I know it's actually alive. And then all it's taking in is ranging the 0 to 255 to a minimum and maximum, and these are the numbers that the computer is expecting, which I think is actually 65.
So the computer, like with the normal joystick output, the computer expects a numerical input to it. I guess that's what always kind of threw me, is that when you set that up with the computer, it knows it's getting some sort of serial signal from the trinket. Is that right, or?
It's doing it entirely over USB. In this case, it's showing up the same as a joypad or any USB joystick would, a steering wheel or anything like that. It's not analog at the point other than the potentiometer. The only thing I'm doing a little bit special is that I'm automatically calibrating it at boot up, and then mapping the ranges to the values the computer expects.
Okay, yeah, and it looks like there's a joystick library that handles the actual communication.
Yeah.
Is that
that's one
right?
reason I use CircuitPython.
Okay.
I used to do almost everything in Arduino. I've kind of switched over to CircuitPython because it does an incredible amount of stuff inside very small amounts of code, and it's mostly because there's a huge supporting amount of libraries to go with it. I'm sure there's an Arduino library that does joystick control. But I found this to work really very easy. All I have to do is import basically the ADC, the analog and digital, and then they have a gamepad controller, so I can actually wire other pins and in my I've open sourced this in the 3D print. I actually have some of the pins exposed through the 3D print. So if you wanted to put this and wire extra buttons to it, you could, or you could just run another M0. Your choice after that.
Right. So this is entirely I guess you're using it as a throttle. Is that right? I mean, or is it something else?
Yeah. I didn't end up using it too much other than really the video that I made of it. It can be fully used as a throttle, which so I got a little VR set up with a regular joystick, and this became the throttle that I was using for Star Wars Squadrons. And it works really well for that, as far as I have a middle detent, so this actually holds its position in the middle. And then the speed limiter is another component inside that is geared so that this holds its position. Because this is actually quite heavy. I mean, it's a stainless steel rod with a ball at the end, and it's a big lever.
That speed limiter, that's like a door hardware. Is that correct, or how does that work?
Door cabinet hardware. It's used in other basically aspects as a part of McMaster. So a speed limiter is actually a really simple device. It is it's inside here. It's just a little tiny thing. It's not going to show up on camera. But it is a 2 plates with an oil in the middle. A lot of times silicone, so because they can vary the amount of tension in the oil. And so all it is basically providing a set amount of friction. In this case, this is 5 pounds of torque, basically, is what it's providing resistance for.
Okay.
I was hoping it would make this actually hard to move, so that it was a little more so that it felt a little more real as far as like you're pushing some engine. But this is such a big lever arm that all it really does is actually provide the holding force so that it doesn't droop.
I thought it was really cool the way you did the detent thing. And I guess for those that don't know this, the detent's basically there's like an indentation on the internals, and it basically a spring pushes the ball up into it and stops it kind of stops it enough so it won't go, right?
Yeah, so ball detents are kind of a little bit of an art. In this case, I'm using, this is another part from McMaster. So I'm using a ball detent that's on a screw, so you can adjust the amount of force, and then I have just little gaps in the 3D print that line up with the ball at either end and in the middle. If I wanted to, I could, for example, provide a ratcheting effect where I had a whole bunch of these, right? And you kind of click through them. So anything you find that kind of does that, that's what they're using is typically as a ball detent, which is just a ball at the end of a spring, similar to what you see inside a ratchet, inside the ball socket of a ratchet.
Okay.
That's really all there is to it.
So basically, the ball goes up in the hollow part and holds it there kind of loosely, so you can pull it out, but it's going to stay there if you just leave it.
Well, because it's spring loaded, as soon as you try to start moving, it's going to push in, and you're going to feel that little bit of force, a little bit of tactile force when it hits that spot.
Right. Yeah, it's a really beautifully engineered inside of it. I think that's really cool. Now the prints. Did you print that yourself, or did you have somebody else 3D print it?
So I now, fortunately, at my place of business, I convinced them within the first week it was available to pre-order a Formlabs Fuse 1. So we had already been previously using for production parts, using service bureaus to make SLS 3D printed parts. A lot of things that people don't realize about get access to SLS. They know about FDM 3D printing, which is I basically just call at-home 3D printing, even though there's professional FDM 3D printing. And then some people are becoming more familiar with SLA 3D printing, where you got the laser curing the prints, because there's now printers that are low cost for those. The catch with, or what I love about SLS 3D printing is the actual part geometry. Because it's built as layers it's basically built up layer by layer by layer, 0.1 millimeter at a time. It's a bed of powder goes down, a laser melts the stuff together, and another bed of powder goes down. What it means is you have no supports required, you have unlimited geometry, and you have a much more monolithic end material that is almost as good as injection molded plastic. So you don't have any layer lines per se. You can kind of see them at the end, but they're so small that it's not a big deal. And so, like, for example, this is a part that I've designed. We kind of give away at work sometimes. This is a gear puzzle that you might see on Thingiverse, but this is no assembly required. This is printed in one continuous print. All I got to do is clean the powder out. These are fully captured pieces inside there, so...
Those are two fairly large gears and maybe three smaller gears.
Yeah, so it's basically a differential gear setup with 3 gears, 45-degree gears, around a central shaft.
It's the equivalent of the, the parametric gear that everybody used to print on FDM printers 4 years ago. The planetary gears and the...
Yeah, and Formlabs, this is one of the first parts they ask you to print. This is a crab, a little crab that they like to... So this isn't one I designed, but everything is pre-attached. So this prints as one thing, and everything articulates and moves down to the little fingers. It's hard to kind of show on camera.
So how much is one of these printers?
So when they announced it as a $10,000 3D printer, and that was the price of the printer. In the end, you're talking about like $35K once you get the printer, all the accessories you need to use it, but then you also need a bead blaster, their sift, which lets you depowder the parts, which is actually in an even in a small business, not that much compared to a CNC machine or anything like that. And the parts you get out of it, we use now every single day for all sorts of things, for brackets, for jigs, for actual functional parts that are on devices like clamps, for example, for a cable, something like that. Anything you would injection molded and paid a huge amount of money to actually go and make the molds for, we do on there. And then I get to have fun with it by actually printing my own parts. Because the parts, instead of being so in most FDM printers, print PLA. That's not a long-lasting plastic. Eventually, it's going to get brittle, crack. And you could go ahead and then print nylon, print an ABS. The Fuse one uses by default nylon 12. They have some other materials now. Nylon 12 is a very high-quality nylon. People are familiar with nylon for zip ties. For example, think how long you've seen a zip tie last outside. They actually last outside in the weather for a decade before they start cracking. And then we actually go in and treat the parts and everything so that they actually last when they're an outdoor part. They last for that. And the only trade-off we've had is the parts are a little more brittle than an injection molded part. That's the only trade-off we've ever had with it.
That looks awesome. Well, last guest we had on, Pat actually ended up buying one of his machines. So Pat, you're thinking about buying one of these?
I saw the pick and place machine.
Yeah, and Steven was an employee at Formlabs before he started his pick and place company. That's interesting that this topic.
That's actually one reason.
A few weeks later.
That's what pushed me to get my boss to sign up for it the first week, was that I know how much effort Formlabs puts into their machines working the first time. Yep. They're not releasing a new 3D printer every quarter, and just calling it Rev 3.5. I know that they were, and we have it's been working awesome for us. The only issues we've had, they've resolved like quickly, and then so now I'm able to make things. So pull up my this is my ultimate project, the Pip Boy, which I have videos on. This thing's been going on for 5 years, more.
It might be a good time to stop for our coffee break, and maybe we could talk about that,
Sure.
And maybe some other stuff, maybe some stuff you don't necessarily go over on your YouTube channel. If you anything
Sure.
else you want to talk about.
Sure, it sounds great to me, Jeremy.
So yeah, we'll go ahead and have our coffee break. We'll give our Patreons a shout out, and we'll be right back. So.
Are you doing the theme song, Jeremy?
Hey everybody, welcome.
Break?
Oh well, you can if you like.
Or do you?
Please.
Okay, sure. I don't even know what I'm supposed to say. I'm confused. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the coffee break. I'm here with Jeremy, and my good friend Jeremy. He's drinking something here.
I'm drinking something.
I don't know what it is, though.
I'm drinking mostly water mixed with lemonade because it's like low
Watered down
calorie
lemonade. That's
water.
That's a terrible Arnold Palmer.
It is, but it's like a low calorie drink without the artificial sweeteners and stuff.
Instead of the iced tea, it's water. I'm drinking something that's terrible for me, Jeremy.
What's that?
This
coffee?
is a latte made with, well, it's almost empty. This is a latte made with freeze distilled whole milk. So it's more milk than regular whole milk. It's milk with less water in it.
Isn't that called cream?
There's a problem. Heavy cream and half in America are ultra pasteurized, and regular whole milk is just pasteurized. It's at a lower temperature, so they taste different when you buy them at the store. This tastes more like milk, but it has more of the fat and sugars and things. It's pretty delicious. I only learned about it about a week ago, and now I'm hooked on it.
It's about 8:30 where you are, though. So is that actually like caffeinated coffee? Are you?
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
so what time do you think you'll go to bed tonight, or tomorrow morning?
I think I'm gonna go to bed earlier tonight because I woke up weird today. Didn't work out the way I expected it to. I have a question for you, Jeremy.
Yes, Pat. What is it?
Can you tell us our top 5 patrons?
I can
Patreon?
if you will keep track for me, if you'll count on your fingers. All right. So first of all, we got Carl. He's Carl, one of our Patreons, alphabetically number 1, I believe. Michael Sizer.
Am I going to verify that too?
Well,
that you're in alphabetical order, or am I keeping track of that?
He's the one on top. He's the one that comes up on top, so I assume it's alphabetical. So or maybe just Patreon likes him. I don't really know, but anyway, I got Michael Sizer, Raptor, creatively spelled. Christina Kearney, which I suppose would be after Carl, but should be before Raptor. So I guess it's not alphabetical
This does
at all.
not seem alphabetical, Jeremy.
All right, so we got Stuart Morrow, Brian Moses, and Positive Waves. Is that Because that's 7. Okay. So
That's 5. So I'm going to say you did a good job, Jeremy.
thank you so much for your support. It's really means a lot that you guys are willing to put your hard-earned cash towards our interviewing of awesome people. And yeah, just it's
It
really
really
cool.
does.
Really awesome. All right, so Pat, if somebody did want to support us as a Patreon, what would they do?
If you would like to become a patron of the Create Invent podcast, you can go to, and I'm looking at this here to make sure I get it right. It's patreon.com/createinvent. All one word. No extra slashes.
That's right. No slash, even though we
Well, there's
say
the
it.
one after patreon.com. But
Patreon.
not in between create and invent.
Patreon.com/createinvent. Because we are the
Yes.
Create Invent podcast. So
It is true.
thanks-
And Jeremy,
thanks-
if somebody doesn't want to pay us money, which is fine, I'm not mad if anybody doesn't want to pay us money. How else could they help us out?
So first of all, you could leave a comment wherever you listen and or watch. YouTube's great, SoundCloud,
And that means you can tell us why we're wrong and how wrong we are about something.
Spotify. Are there comments on Spotify? I don't really know, but
I don't know.
anything you could do to share, rate, rank, whatever, any sort of interaction.
Like,
we would-
dislike, thumbs up, upvotes on Reddit, any of that stuff.
Any of it.
We appreciate it a lot.
we love it. I mean,
We really do.
probably
It makes
the
me
bad
smile. Every
comments.
time I get an email that says somebody liked your video or your comment, I'm like, this is fantastic.
that's right. So
It's true.
anyway, we'll get you back to your regularly scheduled program right now.